Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Capes and Lunatics special. Of course, it's me, Phil, and I'm here with a special guest because we're talking 80s cartoons tonight. With our, of course, it's 80s and it's Southgate here. So, who is it?
Is Dave from 80s Reboot Overdrive Bonsai Retro Club.
I was gonna say not Southgate much longer because that's part of the reason you're here. He's not here for his health. What's going on? What's going on with the new podcast?
Yeah, we're starting our own thing, and it's not the royal we, but it's Scott, Rose, and I, which are regular my regular podcasters. We decided to start our own media group. Much like Southgate Media Group, and what we want to do is kind of connect, and do retro things. And what we decided was, being, we predominantly was on the 80s, but now we want to share love for 70s and 90s stuff.
Nice.
So we're starting our own retro group. And over the course of doing 80s Reboot Overdrive, we started making a lot of these type of connections of other people that were doing retro blogs, podcasts, and things along those lines. And it just kind of made sense to, have our own thing. So that's what we're starting.
Oh man, if you'll have me, I might have to do some guest spots for There's so much '90s I could talk: music, comics, TV.
And the funny part is that with Scott and Rose, they're kind of less 90s because we're all a little older. Let's be honest about it. But for me, when I was not growing up, but in the 90s, that's really when I got my kind of introduction to different type of music. And I think that's where I get more of my breadth of being able to articulate that. Whereas Scott and Rose, they're more 80s music. And I think, it's fun to look at things like the Nirvana or the Pearl Jams or the Soundgardens, because to me, that was defining. That was, for me, that was the 90s, man.
Oh yeah.
And so I love all that stuff.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that someday. But tonight we're here for 80s cartoons.
Yeah. Actually, when I posed the idea to you, I was like, retro superhero cartoons. But I mean, whether it be rather just the 80s or we bleed into 70s, 90s, I don't care, man. Whatever.
Well, I mean, '80s cartoons played a big part in like what I am today because I with that the secret origin without '80s cartoons, I probably wouldn't have gotten into collecting comics, my big passion hobby. I probably wouldn't be here podcasting because that came from that. It's but yeah, I'm probably a little younger than you. Like I got I watched Super Friends. I watched Spider Man and His Amazing Friends and Hulk and all that, the cartoon. And but what got me in the comics was the Transformers. That when did they hit big? I think '84. The
Yeah,
cartoon,
yeah,
like
yeah,
that
yeah.
first cartoon. Yeah, '84, and I was like 6 years old at that point, so it was like the perfect spot. I loved that cartoon, and then I got into the Marvel comics because Marvel Comics had it at the time, and then that rolled into well, I want to read more comics. What can I read? Well, what was I watching on TV? Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. So I picked up Spider-Man. I picked up Hulk. I was watching the cartoon of. I watched Super Friends. So it's Batman, Superman, and just the comics avalanche from there. I'm sure you you know the feeling.
Yeah, actually, the what started for me, um, superhero stuff. I didn't really get into superhero stuff until '89ish, and it was actually Batman. But
Mm-hmm.
to back up, in the '80s cartoons, I was things like Thundercats
Yes.
and Visionaries, um, GI Joe, of course. Real Ghostbusters. I mean, loved all of those comics, or not comics, but cartoons. But in the late '80s, um, I had the opportunity to go to the San Diego Comic Con, and I got to be able to experience what Batman was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas versus the Super Friends campy Batman that we had before with the 1966 Batman, and then that same summer, that's when Michael Keaton, Tim Burton gave us that very epic film.
Oh yeah.
And for me, that was the gateway into comics. I
Oh
didn't
yeah.
really. I mean, I appreciated the characters back in the '80s, but I didn't really know what they were about. I didn't really give them a lot of time. I knew there was a Superman. I knew there was a Captain America. I knew all the big names,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't really dig into the mythos until 1989, which I was 18 years old at the time, which is kind of a late bloomer, I guess you could say, in the comic book world. But once I discovered, the rich history of these guys, specifically Batman,
Oh yeah.
I was like, I'm in. Sign me up.
Oh, I was the same way because like before, like I'd probably jumped in the comics like a year before that movie. So it was like before that, it was my exposure to say Batman was Super Friends and like reruns of the '66 Batman, and then I kind of jumped in the comics in '88, and I picked up like um, Death in the Family, where Joker kills Jason Todd, and I was like, wait, that I was like. '88, I was 10 years old. I'm like, wait, this is what Batman can be. And then the year after, when that Michael Keaton movie came out, I was just like, I'm like, this is Batman. 11-year-old, I'm sitting in the theater. I'm like, this is what Batman is.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's like, everything that we'd gotten before that was,
Watered
dare
down.
I, yeah, family friendly, a
Yeah.
family friendly, kind of thing. And once you've got exposure to what Batman was supposed to be like from the beginning, and you learned a little bit more about the mythos of Batman, or the darkness. And then you realize that each one of these different characters has these kind of rich backgrounds that you didn't get from watching Super Friends, or you didn't get from watching these, the campy TV shows like Wonder Woman or uh, um, Batman '66.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're like, okay, I can appreciate this a lot more than what they've been giving me. And it's not that the other stuff was bad. It was just that it wasn't. I don't know. It just didn't hook me. But then once I, got into like Frank Miller's graphic novel, The
Oh
Dark
yeah.
Knight Returns, and seeing Batman on the big screen, I was like, wow, okay, this is the way comics is supposed to be, and the way that these characters are supposed to be. And I've had this weird view of them before, and I didn't appreciate them, but now there's something more here. So I've got to check in a little bit more and find out more about these guys.
Well, I think comics got there like at least a few years, if not more, before the cartoons. Because the '80s cartoons, as great as they were, I think the people making them were like, no one over the age of like 12 or 13 are watching these. Do whatever. And then comics, I think they adapted it even early. They're like, you know what? Let's rate for everyone, all age groups. You're gonna get the kids, of course. The adults are gonna be in here. Let's rate for everybody. And then I think by the time '89 Batman came around, I think the all the other mediums like movies and TV and comics started figuring this out. You got the '89 Batman, then the next year you got that first Flash TV series that only lasted one season.
Yeah, Wesley. What's
John
his
Wesley
name?
Shipp, yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. I think they started figuring it out then, and then it took them another decade or so to figure out. Stay close to the source material. No more
Right.
Batman and Robins.
And then they diverged from it, right? I mean, when they got to the George Clooney Batman, they just
Ugh.
completely went campy again.
Yeah.
If you want to even consider that a Batman film, I don't know if you do or not, but I know I don't.
That,
Um,
that is like my worst. I hate that movie. That's probably the worst. But the worst thing I hate about Batman. The worst
yeah,
Batman story. It's just, yeah, because I think they kind of they scared them because like that second that Batman Returns with Danny DeVito and Michelle Pfeiffer. I think it went too dark, and they were kind of scared because I mean they were like selling Happy Meal toys of this thing, and they're like that went dark. So let's try to get a little lighter, and they went kind of too much in the other direction.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere that they got static on that, where they were
Oh yeah.
McDonald's got was getting some you know hesitation from parents, around you shouldn't be marketing this movie, because I mean you had this penguin guy that was eating fish and just being grotesque.
Oh, at the end, there's like blood dripping out of his face, and
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
but yeah, I mean, as like back to the '80s cartoons is like as simple as they were. I mean, they were like so many of our foundations for all for many of us, and I don't think any of the TV shows or movies they wouldn't be where they're at if we didn't get those like simple first steps.
Right. So, did you watch Visionaries at all?
I saw it a few times, but it wasn't like my big thing. Like I said, I was Transformers, He-Man, some GI Joe. I was like Super Friends, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Oh well, Saturday mornings, man, that was like my thing. That hour of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, followed by the Hulk cartoon.
Well,
Did you what?
you mentioned He-Man, so I've got to
Yeah.
ask you this. This is a go-to question that I've asked people, just to see where you lie. If you had He-Man's sword against the Sword of Omens from Thundercats,
Hmm.
which one wins? Which one's better?
Hmm. I would probably say He-Man just because I was more into He-Man probably than Thundercats, but I don't know.
Yeah, see, you wouldn't be allowed on my show now.
Okay, probably because I had like a plastic He-Man sword as a kid. I had the sword and the shield, man. I'd go out in the
Sure.
yard and fight with that. Yeah.
Yeah, the Sword of Omens being able to, I mean, it evolved into this toy, not toy, but like in the cartoon, it could do almost anything.
Hmm.
But just basically being, think of it as a bat signal for the Thundercats. That's what that thing was, and it was just, and then give them sight beyond sight. I'm a big fan.
I might have to go with Thundercats just because you get that cool Thundercats. Huh.
Oh yeah, exactly. Love
uh,
Larry Kenny. He's a great guy.
hmm But did you ever? I know you're a fan of the Hulk because I've heard you and Charlie. I heard you in early episodes of Gamma Cast. Did you ever watch that Hulk cartoon from the '80s?
A little bit. I know that they had the sidekick character Rick,
Mm-hmm.
that always had like the cowboy hat type thing going on. Um, I I remember those kind of details. I remember like the intro, and actually some of the music of that I lifted up
Yes.
for the bumper of
Mm-hmm.
the Incredible Hulk or the Gamma Cast. Um, but outside of that, I mean, that was really all I remembered from it.
It's the one weird detail that always sticks out to me was like every episode when he turns into the Hulk, of course he rips out of the shirt, but when he changes back, like the shirt comes back and is like completely fine. That's that's like only Rick and a few others knew he was the Hulk because yeah, when he would change back, his clothes would be completely fine. When it was like, where the heck did that shirt come from?
And from the earlier episodes of Gamma Cast, we were talking about how it always seemed like he would always find clothes that fit him, like hanging on a clothesline somewhere, and he would just leave like $5 or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, well, that's one way to do it, I guess.
But I
So,
mean, him and Rick could be locked in like some kind of weird maze, and if the Hulk would try to break them out, then Banner would turn back to normal.
yeah, and there's a
You have
shirt,
like a
right?
collared shirt. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
everything's fine. Pants.
Uh, that's a good point. I'd forgotten that little factoid, but you're right.
Mm-hmm. You
Um,
know,
so
hmm.
like, did you catch any of like the early versions of like the Fantastic Four back in any of those old cartoons?
Yeah, I did. I saw it wasn't like a regular thing for me, but it did catch a few episodes. I probably didn't. I was probably more into the Fantastic Four cartoon, like the '90s cartoon when they had that
Okay.
one and the Iron Man one. Yeah, I was bigger into that one. But yeah, I saw a few episodes of the older one with Herbie.
Yeah, Herbie. That's exactly what I was
Yeah,
going to bring up. I was like, what was the decision there? Why did they decide that they wanted to replace Human Torch with a robot?
wasn't there some? I don't know if it was just a rumor, but wasn't there? I'm sure Charlie would know. Wasn't there like rights issues or something, or weren't they? I don't know if they were trying to use the torch for something else, and there was rights and.
It could have been. I don't know. I never
I
looked
thought I
that
heard,
up.
yeah, I thought I heard something like that, but I
That would
think,
make
but then,
sense though.
yeah, but they eventually introduced Herbie into the comics, though. I mean, the
Oh,
torch was
did it?
there, still
Okay.
there, but yeah, I think, yeah, he was for a little bit.
Yeah, and the funny part about like Marvel versus DC, I've historically always been more of a DC guy, but my 9-year-old daughter, she's actually very much into Marvel. Because of all the Marvel movies and all the attention that you get with Spider-Man.
Hmm.
And true story, maybe like a month ago, she says to me that I'm more of a Marvel girl. And it was just like the cutest thing because here's my 9-year-old daughter, and I'm talking about like, ideas that we could go to C2E2 and cosplay. And, I'm like bringing up, I could be Batman, you could be Robin, that kind of thing. And she's like, I'm more of a Marvel girl. I'm like, you're 9 years old. How did you make that? How did you jump into that camp so fast? So it's
Oh,
great.
oh, so all right, father-daughter costumes. I've been looking for Halloween every year. I'm looking for costumes for my son. He's 4 this year. I'm like, I can find a Captain America costume, but they don't make a Bucky costume. Like that old school Bucky red and blue
Yeah, yeah,
costume.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I want to get that for him, but like anytime you type in Bucky costume in the like Google search, all it brings up is Winter Soldier
Ah, okay.
because of that movie. Yeah,
Right, right.
yeah. I don't think they make like the red and blue costume.
That would be kind of cool.
Yeah. Oh, I did the search. Why I was right about the human Herbie and the Human Torch.
Okay.
When the
Lay it on me.
Fantastic Four property was made into an animated series in 1978, the character of the Human Torch was unable to be used as at the time the character had been optioned separately for use in a solo movie which never materialized.
All right.
So
Well, then that makes sense then.
we almost got a solo Human Torch movie.
Hmm. All right. So earlier you mentioned that you liked Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
Hmm.
Firestar. She was hot.
Yeah. Pun intended.
Yes.
That's another one. And then I think she made the jump to the comics. They had her in X-Men, I think, for at least a little bit. Or well, not as an X-Men, but she showed up in there.
Okay.
But
Do
yeah,
you know?
I
Was
think
there
that's
any,
an
was there anything there? Because I mean, I'm always used to Peter Parker being the downtrodden kid that doesn't have any money. He's always getting, I don't know, just abused because he's a teenager that's not on the right side of the tracks. But then this cartoon comes out, and all of a sudden he's got this great loft in New York. He's got computers that he just moves a little trophy, and then they all
uh-huh.
show up. I mean, was that him? Was that Firestar that was buying all that stuff? Was it
I
Iceman? What?
I the loft I think is Aunt May's, and I think they were all like rooming there while they were in college. But
Okay,
yeah, I'm trying to. I don't remember all the details, but I think there was an episode where they showed where they got all that equipment. It was like I think they helped Tony Stark out with something, and Tony Stark
of
like gave them
course
that
Tony.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
of course Tony would do that.
80s Tony Stark with the pencil mustache. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think I'm trying to remember if I'm mixing up my stories, but I think it's another Human Torch situation. I think originally they wanted Human Torch with Spider-Man and Iceman, but they could again rights or something. They couldn't get him, so they created Firestar, I believe. And then that way they're
Okay.
like, oh hey, now we have a girl, so hey.
Well, I mean, she was very likable. I mean, likable. Sorry. Uh, But no, I mean, you know how you've got these, yeah, the 80s cartoons, subtle, but they introduced these characters that appealed to, those of us that were coming of age that would
Oh,
appreciate
definitely.
the human body. Think of the Baroness from GI Joe.
Oh.
Think of Firestar, obviously. If the movies Jessica Rabbit, these things just Chitara, Thundercats. You're like, okay, these lines are drawn in all the right places.
Oh, please, you're telling me. I told you I was a big fan of He-Man. I mean, they introduced She-Ra, man. I
Yeah,
mean, this warrior woman with like this tiny little skirt. I mean, come
right.
on.
So yeah, they were doing something right. They were doing
Oh
something right
yeah.
by us. Yeah,
Yeah. But oh yeah, and I told you I was a big Transformers fan. Like one of the big events I remember of my childhood, that was '86. I was, let's see, 8 years old. I remember when my mother took me to see the Transformers movie. Shocking children of the world as they killed off Optimus Prime and a bunch of I guess the story behind that is they were introducing a new line of Transformers. They killed off a bunch of the like all the old ones. It's just like they're like, we didn't think it'd be a big deal. Yeah, you market this kids movie and you kill off
the
most of
leader.
the character. Well, and
Yeah.
they killed off a bunch of like a lot of those old Autobots and stuff. And it's just like, yeah, it's a kids movie. You didn't think it was gonna be a big deal, but you killed off most of the characters these kids have been watching for the last like 2 years.
Yeah. So did you collect any of those Transformers?
Oh yeah, I had so many toys. I wish I had held on to them because I mean they're worth money now.
They are.
I remember I think in the '90s I sold them all at like garage sale for next to nothing. I'm just like, ugh, now I'm just.
The one I miss is Soundwave. I don't know
Oh
if you
yeah,
remember him, but Decepticon that looked like a little tape deck,
I
and
had
then he
him.
had, yeah, I had
I,
him too.
and I had the Autobot Blaster looked like the little boom box.
Oh, okay, okay.
I had some of the tapes for both too.
I'm trying to remember the name of a what character it was, but it was a Lamborghini.
Ah,
I want to say Sideswipe. I could be wrong.
it might be, yeah, 'cause I know that's one of the Autobots was Sideswipe.
Yeah. So yeah, I love those things, man. I had the Optimus, not Megatron. That was the gun. Optimus Prime, obviously. Soundwave. Yeah, I had all those guys. God, it was great.
Oh yeah.
And I think the important thing was not to read the instructions, but try to figure
Yes,
out how to transform it without reading.
I told
So
you
yeah.
when they first hit '84, I was 6 years old. I took great pride in not being having to read the instructions and just telling everybody, look, I can do it without reading the thing.
uh, Great toys.
Oh yeah. Oh, those were great Christmases. Just open up to it's just Transformers and GI Joes as far as the eye can see.
Oh, for me, my thing on Christmas was the Star Wars action figures.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, my here's what my mom did. She would give us the J.C. Penney catalog, which is that big thick
Mm,
catalog with all the nice color pictures. And she'd hand it to my sister and I and just say, just mark up what you want because
mm,
I know that your interests change from year to year. And so, of course, I'd be going and circling all the Empire Strikes Back stuff that I wanted. And, Christmas morning, there would be, all these different, I had the Darth Vader collector case.
mm.
And I don't remember a lot of the vehicles, but I remember a lot of just having every miscellaneous character to open up. Be it Obi-Wan or Yoda and all those, just everybody. And it was just those are great Christmases. Of course, spoiled rotten, but it was great.
I wasn't so much into the Star Wars like early on. Like I've gone into it in like the last decade or so, but wasn't there like an Ewok cartoon? Were you in like those Ewok cartoons? Is that what it
There,
was? Or the
there what?
droids too? Like the
Yeah, there
Star
was.
Wars cartoons, yeah.
Yeah, there was a droid and Ewoks cartoon, and I actually brought that up on like one of my final episodes of 80s Reboot Overdrive. Is that I'm curious that if and just when I'm podcasting, I try to do like very minimal research,
Hmm.
so I have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. But uh, when I'm wondering, did George Lucas, was he any part of like the storylines of those things, or did he just go, yeah, you want to
Cash
make
the
a
checks.
cartoon? Yeah, you want to make a cartoon? Go ahead, just do it.
Because after Return of the Jedi, it's probably like, the only way I'm making money is making cartoons or toys. There's no way I'm making more money off any more movies of this. Maybe.
Right, right. So I'm just wondering, like, I mean, you had things like the Christmas special that he's kind of like trying to avoid that it even happened. But I'm just wondering, are the cartoons the same way? Is he like, no, that's not Star Wars canon? So I've always been curious about it, but I've never been curious enough to like Google it and like look it up and be able to verify it. Just in my mind's eye, I'm like, I've got to think that he's like, Droid's cartoon? Yeah, I don't think so. Or the Ewoks cartoon? Yeah, whatever. As long as they want to do it, then go ahead. Just send me my money.
I just want to know how you could have worked at any point with Charlie Esser and not have to bring facts.
Oh, well, I mean, we watched the episodes of The Incredible Hulk, and what I kind of brought to it was just a lot of the realizations of what was going on with retro content, like in
Hmm.
the episode. You had like Bill Bixby. It was an episode where the Incredible Hulk was opening up a pop top can, and of course, we had to talk about that. Because it's like pop top can. That's so old school, dude. And just to recognize that, or the payphone the payphone phone booth, you don't see those anymore.
Yeah.
Or the really big phones that are in the cars, with the cord, and it's like, this is crazy, and looking at the bell bottoms and Hulk running down Central, it wasn't Central Park, but it was in North New York, um,
Times Square.
Times Square, yeah, and just looking at all that and going, you know, it's so dated,
Hmm.
but appreciating the fact of the scenery and the interactions that he's having. So that's what I brought to the earlier versions of GammaCast when we were doing it.
But
But you're
yeah,
right,
because
Charlie is so technical, as far as
yeah.
like the character, and here's why this was this way, and this is what's they're thinking, and how this isn't canon for the Incredible Hulk, and it's so fascinating to listen to that guy. I mean, I really had almost nothing to say.
Yeah. We love you, Charlie Esser. I know you listen to this.
Yeah, he is awesome.
But yeah, because yeah, that is one thing you watch those old Hulks and it is kind of dated with like the technology and stuff. But since we're talking cartoons, one that I swear is timeless because technology's all over the place. Everyone, I'm sure it has a big impact on you, just like everyone else. Batman the animated series.
Yes, very much so. In fact, we had talked about that on the uh, in Bonsai Retro Club. We were talking about our top three '90s TV shows, and that was one of my top three.
Oh yeah.
Very impactful. And that kind of started, or didn't start, but that kept that continuation of that Dark Knight persona. And Batman the Animated Series just did that right.
Oh yeah.
And you had so many good things in that series, from Kevin Conroy voicing Batman to Mark Hamill doing the Joker, the introduction of Harley Quinn. I, I can't say enough good things about this thing. And of course, I was, Scott, for he didn't have a lot of reference there because he wasn't watching the cartoon. And in my mind's eye, I'm going, how could you not watch this cartoon, guy?
Oh, I
So,
know.
but it was awesome. It was absolutely awesome.
Oh my god, you have to, if you haven't heard it, you have, when we're done, you have to look up on YouTube. I think I played it in the last episode of Capes and Lunatics. I don't think it went up yet, but there's a clip from some, I don't know if it's a show or a podcast, but they got Kevin Conroy to do like that Christian Bale's final speech from like the Dark Knight movie.
Okay.
And Kevin Conroy does it, and it's so great.
He's by far my favorite Batman.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And like me and Charlie said, it's great because it's animated. Because as long as that his voice holds up, I mean, he could do it till the day he dies.
Yeah.
But yeah, just him
And
doing Christian Bale's speech, it's even better.
I like what Mark Hamill's done with Joker. I mean,
Oh,
even the Arkham games. And I don't know if you play any Xbox, or
I I have most except for that last one. I have most of the Arkham games for PlayStation. Yeah.
okay.
Oh yeah.
And he's amazing. He's
Oh yeah.
absolutely amazing. And I have to remind myself, this is Luke Skywalker.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because I mean, I think Mark Hamill's like a big comics fan too. So I mean, he's of course he's so into it. Because I was reading somewhere because I think what was it last week was it's the 25th anniversary of when Batman the animated series started, and they said like they were one of the few shows where like everyone was like always in this. I think they said everyone was always in the same room recording, and they always sat down except Mark Hamill was the only one they let stand up because I mean he did all the gestures while he was like going off as the Joker and just he put so much energy into it.
Right.
But
In fact, a few times that I again talked to different voiceover actors throughout the length of 80s Reboot Overdrive, there's a lot of them that talked about being able to feed onto that energy of working in a room, versus the ones where they were like, well, it changed over time, and then we were able to record at home, and you lost something.
yeah,
And I could see that. I could see that from the retro series of cartoons where you could just almost hear it, where they're getting something from each other as they're recording, um, and versus the ones that were just kind of recording separately.
oh
And
yeah, a lot of those old cartoons used to like one person delivers their line, then another person,
right,
then another. Yeah, that animated series you could tell. I mean, that was a labor of love and all the detail put in. I mean, it influenced the comics. I mean, Harley Quinn first appeared there, and then they introduced her in the comics later. They took Mr. Freeze's origin from the animated series. Now it's like canon in the or at least it was in the comics. Because before animated series, Mr. Freeze was just some mad scientist who froze himself. But then they introduced like the whole backstory of the wife and everything. And
right.
oh yeah,
And I
everyone.
gotta tell you, I'm a big fan of that Gotham TV show too.
That is not. That show's getting crazy. I mean, have you seen like have you heard anything that's coming for this season?
No, I'm probably one that doesn't follow like the trailers that are coming up and all that kind of
Mm,
stuff. I just wait for it to happen.
mm-hmm.
So the new episode will be recorded on the DVR, and I'm like, oh, cool, Gotham started, and then I'll watch it, and then I get my mind blown, and then I wait for the next week.
And you know it's on a new night, right? It's on Thursday nights now.
I have actually no idea when shows are actually on
Oh, because you DVR. Yeah.
because I DVR everything, and it's almost one of those things where it's like, I'm looking on the what's on the saved feature on Comcast, and I'm like, oh, okay, that show's out now. All right, cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you never ask me, when does this
I
show going to start again? I'll never know.
I probably wouldn't know except I try to live tweet some stuff and like me and my son watch like we watch Flash all the time and
Sure.
but Gotham I think they said they're starting it, they even pushed it up a week early. I think Gotham comes back a week from tomorrow.
Oh my God, I love that show.
Oh yeah.
And that's one of the first ones I watch. But I've got the other ones recorded. I
Mm.
mean, like, you know, it's sad, and I'll admit it here on the podcast. But the last season of Arrow, I've got it on my DVR, and I haven't watched it yet. But I've watched everything else. I've watched Flash. I've
Yes.
watched Gotham. Um, but for some reason, Arrow. I mean, I like Arrow for what it is, but I don't know. It just for some reason it's like once I start watching it, then I'll keep watching it. But
Mm.
I can't get into that rewatch. Starting it again, and I don't know
It's
why.
people have like a love hate relationship with that show. I mean, there have been good seasons, there have been not so good seasons, but it's kind
Yeah,
of like a different animal because like everything else in that CW universe is like superpowers and stuff, and he's like the only one who doesn't have powers.
right.
Because there's even some special I was watching where they're saying, yeah, everything else is, every other show is like CGI and special effects. Arrow's more like practical, practical effects and swinging off of stuff and fight choreography.
Yeah. So
Whereas
I
the
mean, I guess thinking back to that, Green Arrow in our core topic for tonight. I mean, did he really represent well in any retro cartoon?
I can bear. Was he in like any Super Friends? I don't like maybe a couple episodes, but
Yeah, I can't recall him.
until until like they got a little darker with him in the comics in like I don't know the mid to late '80s. I think even when he first came out in the comics in like the '40s, like he was like a Batman ripoff. I mean, he had an Arrow mobile, an Arrow cave, and all that. He was
Right.
basically Batman with even had a sidekick. I mean, he was Batman with bow and arrows.
Well, that was an interesting turn they took on him, though. They gave what Speedy a drug problem.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Was that in the '70s? Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, they started to kind of like differentiate Green Arrow from Batman when they started giving him the goatee and stuff, and they made him like get more political and stuff.
right. So going back to Super Friends, got to ask you,
Okay,
sidekick characters, which is better, Wonder Twins or Marvin and what's her name,
Wendy.
Wendy? Yeah,
Personal preference. I think I like the Super Twins better, the Wonder Twins.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean they actually had powers. Those other ones. I'm like, why are they here?
yeah. I'm with you.
I mean,
Exactly.
if you're mascots, you're one thing, but why would superheroes take you into battle or something?
Yeah, it's like, why were these guys here? Um, Other
But
than being the typical atypical sidekick character where you always had the more experienced characters giving them the backstory. Oh, here's why this is the way it is. So I think you always had that kind of character in any of those shows.
well, I think it's like the reason like they created sidekicks like Robin and stuff. They're like, oh, we want the kids to identify with them, and it's like kids don't care. Kids are like, I want to be Superman, I want to be Batman, I want to be Wonder Woman.
Right.
But but the one issue I had with the Wonder Twins, I was like, it's like, do you always is your power that you always have to turn into something water or ice or
Yeah, it's like the girl. She always turned into an animal of some sort,
yes,
and then the guy, um, he always turned into of some sort of water. So
yes,
it could have been like a bucket of water or an ice or an iceberg, and whatever the case for that episode needed. But yeah, it was weird. It was weird that that was the power that was chosen for him.
yes.
I feel he got a raw deal.
I'm just like, okay, there's shapeshifters, but you only take a certain.
Yeah, and their sidekick monkey Gleek, yeah, was not a fan. Not a
Yeah.
fan. And much like Snarf, Orko, it's like, do we really need these guys? And this goes back to my hate for Scrappy Doo. Uh, it's like, do we need this character? No, we don't. They're annoying. Let's whoever designed this person, whoever did the voice for them. I'm sorry, but yeah, no, not good.
I think everyone you
Okay.
named was just comic relief and
No, they were. I
yeah.
know that was why they were there. Um,
Again,
but yeah, hate is
again,
crappy.
they kind of tried to simplify these '80s cartoons. It's like, oh, I don't know if we want to go too serious for the kids, so we need like this comic relief. It's like, I know I was a kid. Like I said, I was a kid back then, and I was like, I don't care about these, Gleek or even Marvin and Wendy had that dog. I'm like, what is this? Scooby Doo invading Super Friends? I'm like,
Was
I don't
that
need it. Just give me superpowers.
Wondermutt? Is that right? Wondermutt?
I can't remember.
I'm gonna look it up now.
My favorite iteration of I don't think any of those characters were my favorite iteration of the Super Friends. Challenge of the Super Friends. That was my favorite iteration, with the group, and then you have Lex Luthor and the Legion of Doom.
Oh, Legion of Doom, good stuff right there.
That was my favorite iteration because I mean, and I don't think any of that had Marvin or Wendy or Wonder Twins or you just got like those regular DC characters. I mean, that's where I first encountered. Oh, I first encountered so many characters: Solomon Grundy, like half of
All
those
right,
villains.
all right. So I found the villains that comprise the challenge or the Legion of Doom. How many of those can you name?
I know Solomon Grundy, Sinestro, is it Cheetah,
Yep,
Black Manta,
yep,
Bizarro,
yep.
Lex, of course.
Of course.
Was Scarecrow in there?
Scarecrow was good.
Toyman.
Toyman good.
How many more do I got?
Actually,
Oh,
I mean these aren't going in the same order you are. So
okay.
let me see if
I'm trying
you.
to remember. I don't think he was there. All was the Riddler in there?
Yeah, he was. And in fact, that's
Okay.
the one that I've always been curious about. Of all these guys that had these super wonderful evil powers, I mean, the
Yeah.
Riddler was there.
I know, because like even like the toy man had like robots and stuff. It's like Riddler.
Yeah.
Just,
Now he's
uh,
smart. I'll give him that. But
yeah.
um, you didn't mention Gorilla Grodd,
Yes, Grodd. What's her face? Giganta.
Giganta. Yep.
Yeah.
And Captain Cold.
Yes, Cold.
Because you had yeah, you mentioned Grundy before.
Yes.
And you got all the other ones. So good
That
job.
that was like my first exposure to so many of them, like Grodd and Grundy and Captain Cold and Cheetah. Like basically, if they were Batman or Superman villains, they were probably like my first exposure to all those guys.
And that's the weird thing about me. With my appreciation of Batman, I find myself enjoying the backstory of his rogues gallery a little bit more. Like, I'll even go so far as to try to commit the actual name of the villain, not their, persona.
Yes.
Like Edward Nigma being the Riddler, Selena Kyle being Catwoman. So it's like those are the things that it's important to me to remember for some reason. But I just always found it fascinating that I'm more attracted to his rogues gallery than maybe more so than Batman.
Hmm.
It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird relationship I have with Batman.
Well, they're interesting. I mean, I think Batman and Flash maybe have like the best like rogues gallery. And then throw Spider-Man in there. I think those three probably have like the best rogues
Well, I'm more of a DC
gallery.
guy.
Uh,
To
but
borrow
I'm
my
saying,
to
but
borrow my 9-year-old's
yeah,
nomenclature.
but I'm just saying. I mean,
Yeah,
DC, Batman and Superman have. I mean, no, Batman and Flash have like the best villains. Probably Superman maybe third, but
yeah.
yeah, Batman and Flash I think have the best villains.
And Harvey Dent has always been my favorite. I've always been
Uh,
a Two Face fan.
Two Face.
Yep.
But yeah, once I got into the comics, that's where I met Two Face in the comics, then the animated series, because like they didn't pull. I don't think I don't think he was in any of those cartoons, and like they didn't do Two Face in the even like Batman '66. So I was watching reruns of that.
Yeah, no,
And
they really didn't introduce him. No.
I think I heard I thought I heard something that they were gonna do an episode with him, but it never came about. Oh, did you hear about uh the sequel to that Batman 66 animated movie they put out?
No.
Did you see the first one that
Yes.
animated? Okay. Well, I think that I'm trying to remember the next sometime in the next year. I think they're putting out the sequel. Two Face is the villain, so you'll definitely be interested. I think they said it's Adam West's last work.
Okay.
And oh, so you didn't hear about this? So you don't know who's
No.
doing the voice of Harvey Dent and Two Face?
No.
Huh.
Share it with
Brace,
me. Come on.
brace yourself. William Shatner.
Get out.
Yeah,
Nice. Good
Shatner.
pick.
Because I saw a preview for it, and it's Shatner's like his voice is like all like lighter and higher for Harvey Dent, but then when it comes Two Face, he's all like this.
uh,
It looks crazy.
that's a solid pick. Kudos to them.
Oh yeah, but yeah, that's gonna sell through the lure roof because I mean they've already been saying yeah that's like I think that's Adam West like last animated work and stuff, and definitely his last work as Batman.
Yeah, definitely. So, any of the other like retro cartoon superhero stuff did you watch?
Uh,
Like Plastic Man? Did you get into that any at all?
not really. I was aware of it, but I really didn't watch much of it.
What's the backstory with him? Do you know?
Uh, Plastic Man. He was kind of like a small time hood or crook. I think he was like a, I don't know if he's like a con man.
Okay.
I think he was it like he
Like I
was
said,
like
I do almost no research, so I'll
yeah
go
he
on talking about a cartoon even though I have no, like
I don't know
solid
if
information.
yeah I don't know if they were said in the cartoon because like I said I really didn't watch it, but I know in the comics was he doused with chemicals or was that elongated? I don't know.
Yeah, we need Charlie.
It
But no, I remember him being something about a crook, and I thought it was something to do with Batman helping him straighten him out.
mhm.
And I could be way off base on that.
Hmm.
But I remember the cartoon being out there and just being kind of cheesy for the 80s.
Most of them were.
Oh, well, they were. Yeah. X-Men, they were big in the 90s.
Yes, yes. 90s X-Men. Yes. That yeah, those I watched all that Marvel stuff in the 90s. X-Men, Spider-Man, like I said, Fantastic Four and Iron Man. Of course, Batman the animated series. I'm trying to remember what else. Oh, did you 90s? If we go 90s, did you ever watch Captain Planet?
Oh, yes, Captain Planet, yes. Was it the rings? I think it was the rings that they kind of
Yes.
like all united in order to call the Captain Planet.
When our powers combined.
Yeah. Um, what was it? There's something online. Don Cheadle did kind of a spoof on Captain Planet. It's out there. I think it's Funny or Die.
Hmm.
And it's just absolutely hilarious where he just goes rogue and he's like, all right, you all are bad. And then he starts turning everybody into trees. And it's just hilarious.
But we were saying combined. I just remembered another one from the 80s. I was big into Voltron.
Voltron. Okay.
But I haven't watched the reboot yet. I keep meaning to. I'll probably binge like the whole thing soon here. But yeah, in the 80s, yeah, I love Voltron.
Yeah. I think it's on Netflix now.
Yeah, I think
The
so.
uh,
Yeah.
the reboot. Yeah. And that's something that I didn't really get into. For some reason that I didn't connect with that. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, I remember watching things like Mighty Orbots.
Hmm.
I like those guys.
Oh, Transformers. Did you watch the knockoff GoBots?
No, no, I didn't give those guys any time.
I kind of watched this just because I was such a big Transformers fan and I couldn't get enough, and I was like, oh, okay, more robots that turned into stuff. Okay, but yeah, I mean, they weren't as good as Transformers, but
Right. Well, kudos for them for trying, I guess.
mm,
But yeah, you're like you've already got a formula that works and everybody loves it, and I don't know.
it's.
It's like
I mean, the whole thing behind that is, I'm sure, is like a lot of the cartoons of the '80s was like another toy line was probably like, oh, we get this. You see how Transformers are selling? We could probably sell some of the, some of
yeah.
our own.
So yeah, I think that's sort of what somebody was trying to find a way to keep it going. And I guess I feel the same way about things like Snorks, from Smurfs.
Yeah,
It's like you already had a formula that worked. Did you really need to introduce something else or a variation of it? Um, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe we're fine with the first version and just keeping it going.
yeah,
Um, but I understand that somebody's going out, some big boss somewhere for a conglomerate of some company that says, we need to be able to compete with these guys, and so let's come. What's your ideas? And then suddenly somebody lands on GoBots,
yeah. But
and like, all right, well, good luck with that.
yeah, I didn't watch a lot of Snorks, but yeah, when I was little, I did watch Smurfs.
Sure,
And you could find some of those original Smurf episodes on DVD because we got some for my son. He's 4, and I mean, it must hold up because it still catches his attention.
sure,
Keeps him entertained as much as it did me 30
yeah.
some years ago.
uh, yeah, I think when they were first predominant, I probably was
Yeah, it's probably
uh, probably just a little bit too old for it.
yeah,
But I appreciated the fact that it was a social icon. It was
hmm
just one of those big things for the 80s. And a lot of people were into, those characters. And I knew enough about it. I knew there was
yeah,
Smurfette and Papa Smurf and all those guys. But, did I, be waking up early on Saturday morning to watch that when it was like 84 and I was like 13? Not so much.
yeah. See, '84, I was 6, so yeah, I remember I got like a good year or two out of it. Then I was like, eh. But I
Yeah.
mean, it was on what was it? I think yeah, it was at NBC because it was like part of that big lineup. It was Smurfs, and then like at the end of the morning, at what was it, 11 or so? That's when Amazing Spider-Man and his Amazing Friends and Hulk came on. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a way to kill time until Spider-Man came on when I was like 6 and 7.
Were you into the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon?
No, no.
Love that one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just uh, being at that age, I was into a lot of the fantasy stuff,
hmm
and I liked Hobbit by J.R. Tolkien, and this was before my Dungeons and Dragon days, but I liked fantasy stuff. I liked knighthood stuff, and then that's where like Visionaries came in. But Dungeons and Dragons, it was really, yeah, the ability to give these normal everyday kids an escape from their normal everyday lives, and then give them the ability to have either you know uh, powers of some sort, be it magical or strength or whatever. And it was just it was so cool. It was
Oh
so
yeah.
cool to me, and I loved those kind of elements in those cartoons. Whether it be Dungeons and Dragons or Kid Video, if you
Kid
had those,
video. Yeah.
yeah, you took somebody in their normal everyday life and then had them escape
hmm
from that into something else that was kind of a fantasy element. To me, that was a lot of great 80s cartoons.
hmm 80s cartoons. I mean, we could probably wrap up soon, but if we're talking 80s cartoons, you know what we have to mention? We haven't mentioned
What's that?
Mr. T.
Mr. T. Why was this guy hanging out with a gymnast? I and what's the deal
I
with
guess I don't know if he's supposed to
dog
be the
having a
coach.
mohawk?
Branding.
Yeah. So no, I those cartoons that did that thing where you would have the actual star,
Uh-huh.
doing the intro before the show. Um, they did it right on Mr. T. He came out and he was actually one of the lines that he used was, first name Mister, middle name period, last name T. And it was like, seriously, come on.
Yeah.
But back then that was it. Mr. T was a man. You watched A Team and you got
Yeah.
to see him on Saturday morning, and I guess,
There
I don't
was
even remember why he was with Jim Nest or not, but
yeah.
I loved it.
I'm trying to remember. I don't know if he was the coach. I think, but oh yeah, he must have been making mad money back then. I mean, just A Team, the cartoon. There were toys. He had his own cereal.
Yeah, yeah, he has his own cereal. He's involved in Rocky. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, Rocky. Yes.
the guy was everywhere. He even went to the damn White House talking to Nancy Reagan about, say no to drugs. He was there, man. Mr. T was all over the place, and I love him for it.
But oh my god, you mentioned A Team. I mean, they're not cartoons, but like two other like two probably the big shows that influenced me in the '80s. Well, besides Incredible Hulk, was Greatest American Hero,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
and oh, I was just enamored. Maybe I was just the right age, but Knight Rider.
Knight Rider. Okay, good call.
I mean, young kid. I was just like car that talks and can drive through walls, and now I realize the Hoff.
The Hoff.
The Hoff.
And that was actually a like a Twitter thing that I had going. God, I don't even know if it's been a year now. It might have been a year ago. Um, but there was I was doing this thing on Twitter where it was like this thing versus this thing. You retweet for this, and you like for this.
Mhm.
And I put uh, what was it? General Lee against Knight Rider, and
Okay, yeah.
that was the big face off. And I gotta tell you, man, the Dukes of Hazzard fans on Twitter, they are fanatical.
I bet.
They,
I
yeah, I mean, those guys, they will rally. They
I
will
watched
rally big time.
I watched Dukes of Hazzard as a kid too, but I mean, if it was a choice, I would probably pick Kit every time.
And I think I go that same way, but I found out that as I've gotten older, that I have an appreciation for those kind of things for different
Hmm.
reasons than when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Because when you're a kid, you think, oh, I'm going to go into super stealth mode, or I'm going to go in turbo mode, and I'll be able to
Yes.
do all that. But as you get older, you go, you know what? I've got a car that's going to drive itself, and I'll just be able to answer emails while I'm going to work.
Yeah.
So it's
And
like you start thinking more practical.
plus early on when I think the show was pretty early on, I got to go to my parents took me to the car show and I got to sit in Kit.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Had the screens, everything. There was like some local TV station on one of the screens. I'm like, why is he gonna talk?
Good stuff.
Yeah, so anything else or have we bludgeoned the '80s and '90s?
Oh man, we went all over the board, man.
Oh yeah.
But always a good time, man.
Oh yeah.
Always good. Um, yeah, I'm just trying to think. Is there anything else in like retro, like superhero stuff?
Well, hey, I mean, we don't. Doesn't have to be a one-time thing. I mean, we can always do this again, either here or on your new
Bonsai Retro
show.
Club.
Yeah,
Yeah,
tell the
yeah.
people about Bonsai Retro Club.
Bonsai Retro Club. That's a new thing that, as I mentioned earlier, Scott Rose and I are doing. It's out there on a website now, bonsairetroclub.com. That's BANZAI. We always want to clarify that because I think sometimes people misspell it. And what it is going to be a vehicle that we're going to be able to revisit 70s, 80s, and 90s topics. We're going to be looking at showcasing via the blog or the podcast just any kind of topic that floats our fancy that would have been predominant in those decades. Our first episodes, have been things like our favorite movies in the 70s, our favorite albums in the 80s, our favorite TV shows in the 90s. The episode that Rose and I just recorded was actually 70s fashion. So we got to talk about bell bottoms a little bit. So a lot of great stuff. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. I'm very excited about all of it.
Nice. So yeah, everyone tune into that. And over here, I mean, follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter at Capes Lunatics. And send us emails, capesandlunatics@gmail.com, and call our voicemail 614-382-2737. We have a couple giveaways right now. We're looking for questions for our interviews this weekend with Marvel writers Kelly Thompson and David F. Walker. If you send us a question, you might win a comic. We're going to be a big part of the Southgate Media Group. We're going to be the online portion of the podcast marathon coming up. So subscribe
Very
to our
cool.
YouTube. Yeah. Uh, so lots of stuff going on with us. Lots of stuff going on with Dave and his crew. So listen to both of us.
Definitely. A lot of great stuff.
Can never have enough podcasts. I've noticed that. I'm like, I run out. I'm like, where's more podcasts?
Yeah, there's always tons of great stuff out there.
That's the thing. It's like no matter what you're interested in, there's a podcast out there somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so.
All right. Well, I guess that's it. Like I said, we'll have to do this again. But Dave, thank you for joining me tonight. It was fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed geeking out with you, man. This is we didn't really get a chance to do it as often as we should have.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. We still got to record that Battle for the Cow.
Oh my God, that was a while ago, man.
Oh yeah, that was at least a year ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
We can still do it. We can still do it here, man.
Yeah, Battle for the Cow. I've got to go reread that. That was good stuff. You want to know my favorite character out of that?
What?
Was Two-Face Batman.
Oh yeah.
That was a dream sequence. Was it? Oh God, who had the dream sequence? Was it Grayson?
Maybe I don't have to go back and read that too, but they kind of brought that in later on, like Two Face actually wore a suit like that. But yeah, anytime you will want to do that, please. Nightwing centric story, I'm there.
Of course, you are the Nightwing King.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, once again, thank you very much for.
No problem, man. I appreciate you making time for me.
Hey, no problem. Like I said, we'll do it again.
All right, cool.
All right, sir. Thank you.
All right. Good night.
Night.